Hello and welcome to this week's episode of The Giant Pod with me, Andy Wrintmore. My guest this week is comedian and podcaster Nicola Stephen. We talk about moving to London from a small town in your late 20s and making dreams come true. We talk about the roots of loving comedy. We talk about the art of stand-up comedy. We talk about her stand-up comedy set and how she opens a show. We talk about the importance of that first 30 seconds to establish yourself to the audience, bring them over to your side, and then roll on with your set and hopefully kill it and not bomb. We do talk about bombing. We talk about getting a bit ahead of yourself, being a bit overconfident. We talk about podcasts. We talk about her podcast, I'm Still Standing. We talk about her comedy night that she set up for a more diverse range of comedians, a more diverse demographic. That's called Subfun. We talk about hanging out with a weird vicar in your in your late teens. We talk about all kinds of things. I really loved this conversation, and I want to thank Nicola for being so vulnerable, so open, and so honest at many points in this podcast. I really love chatting to comedians. There's something about comedians where things just roll really easily, and you never feel like you're going anywhere that's like too out of bounds or whatever. I really enjoy the freedom that comes with talking to stand-up comedians. I think you guys are going to love her. We're definitely going to get back on the podcast at some point because I just enjoyed myself so much with her. So here it is. This is Nicola Stephen on The Giant Pod. Enjoy. I've also debated doing a late night style show.
Okay.
But like a Christmas special thing.
Okay. What would that entail?
You know, like Conan and Jimmy Fallon and...
So just have like a bunch of guests and they come in and stay and...
Yeah, and it'd be...
Maybe a band in the background.
Yeah, I just like the idea of someone taking what's usually the territory of a big budgeted network production and just doing the best they can with it. So I want like a punk band instead of like your like traditional
soft jazz.
Yeah, instead of your lounge jazz band doing like the cover of the artist who's coming in or something. I just want noise between guests.
Yeah. So sort of like if you were to like take a late night show like the Jonathan Ross show and mix it up with TGI Friday. Not TGI.
Is that a restaurant?
It's a very different show. TFI Friday.
TFI. Yeah, sort of like that. Yeah.
I love that.
But I'm sure it's done. I'm sure it's been done.
But like, I think the problem is that like...
Everything
has been done.
Yeah.
I don't feel like anything is like original anymore, but you can do your version of it. And I think that's what's special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put your twist on it, don't you?
And well, it was like with my podcast, like I'd been doing comedy for a few years before I started doing that. And I always had in the back of my head, maybe for like my profile, it'd be good to do it and to hone my skills in different ways and all that. But I was just like, oh, there's so many, like how can I compete with all these amazing other podcasts? And then I thought, do you know, can I swear?
Yeah, fuck
like,
it.
Fuck it. I've probably already sworn a load of times.
Fucking swear. Go for it.
But, like, why should that stop you? Like, there's bigger idiots than you that are doing it already, so give it a go.
I think that when I think about learning to drive.
Yeah.
And I don't normally really get that sort of little saboteur in my brain going, you can't do that. It is normally like, well, if I decide I'm going to do it, I'm going to fucking nail it, right? And then sometimes I think, oh, driving, you know, should I learn to drive? How long is it going to take? You know, some people take ages and some people like fail their and everything. And then I look around and I think, some of these idiots driving cars who have, you know, I don't know what their IQ is, but it's not, it might be single digits.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think, well, if they're driving around and they haven't killed themselves or anyone else yet, then there's no reason why I can't go and learn to drive, really. So I kind of feel like that. But even like podcasts, though, doesn't seem to be... It seems to be this weird bastion of media where you actually support other people's podcasts. Yeah. And there is no real... It's not like networks having a rivalry for the best late night show.
Yeah.
You're not pitting I think if this was done on TV, it would be different. There would be competition. But there's so much out there.
Yeah.
It's almost overwhelming. So you're almost like, well, there is no competition because everyone's offering something different.
Totally, yeah. And it's, I guess, like you were saying, it's like the way that people receive it. They choose when to listen or whatever. So why the hell not just go and do it? And I did, and it was great.
And there are people out there that will listen to your podcast, and then lunchtime will come, and they finished it up, and then they'll go and listen to the Giant Pod.
Absolutely.
And so is there really competition? Because people just picking and choosing,
Exactly,
aren't
yeah. I mean, I'm a huge podcast fan, and I had been for a long time before I started mine. And yeah, I listen to a huge array. I mean, most of it is like comedy and true crime, but there's a lot of other stuff within that. And it's not like I'm like, okay, this is the one. This is the podcast.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's other than Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Who is
Which I've never, ever listened to an
the top
episode.
dog. Joe's good. I mean, that seems weirdly controversial to say now.
Yeah, totally.
I've had some really good, I've enjoyed a lot of Joe Rogan episodes. I don't so much these days.
Yeah.
There's been loads of really good ones. It's when he gets the people on that are like, he doesn't know that much about what they do, and they're really interesting.
Yeah.
Because he's got the budget and the profile. He's the podcast. So his podcast now kind of gets put into that sort of round robin of stuff that people do before they bring out a big book or a big movie. Like, he doesn't always have Hollywood stars in there or whatever.
Yeah.
He doesn't have the biggest rock stars in the world either, but he's got that much clout and that much listenership now that the people he gets in, it almost doesn't matter that it's him.
Yeah.
You know, it's that they've been brought into a format which is very candid and open and can be quite vulnerable. And that's quite interesting. And he's one of the only podcasts that gets that kind of ilk of people. And so it's just interesting to see them in the genre.
True. Maybe I'll give him a couple of listens.
Give him a go, but don't, go out your way for it.
Yeah, I was never drawn to it. So, yeah.
No, and I don't think you're his demographic either.
No.
If we're being really honest.
No.
And I sort of feel like I'm not his demographic either.
I wouldn't have put you in there either.
I try to kind of cherry pick the bits that I find interesting. I do feel like the further into his career he gets, the more stuff he says, I go, like, have you ever left America?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. I think a lot of stars, they get to that point where they think they can say anything. And a lot of them can. They can say anything and then put an apology out and then it's all good. Yeah. Usually if they're a white male, get a lot more leniency. But yeah, he seems to still be doing all right with all the stuff he's been saying.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Spotify said, give us the show. We'll give you 100 million to go exclusive to Spotify. So it's a bit.
One day we'll get there.
A bit of a no-brainer, isn't it? That one. Even if the show sucks after that, he's got 100 million. He's done it.
Exactly. Yeah. You can stop trying.
But yeah. But enough about Joe Rogan.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about him.
When was the last time I saw you? A long time ago, just before you moved to London.
Yeah. So I've been in London for over 5 years now.
And how do you feel about that?
I love it.
Yeah?
Yeah. Even before I moved, it was always like the place I wanted to be. So I've always been a creative person, and I started being a graphic designer in my early 20s, and it kind of was drummed into me when I did my degree and when I was working in various places that like London is the place to do it in. And even before that,
you get that draw to the big city, right?
I had friends that lived there, and every time I visited, I got that little itch to like go and be there. And then my work offered me a transfer, and I thought, yes, I'm going to do that.
Right, because I followed you on social media, and I still follow you on social media. And what was it? We did a Glastonbury together.
Oh my God,
didn't we? We worked on the same crew.
Yeah.
There was many sort of, like, it was like 6, 7 a.m. We're coming off shift.
Yeah.
Looking haggard and beaten, and you're going on shift looking at us like, oh shit, what have we got ourselves in for?
God, that was years ago. I think that was probably the last Glastonbury I went to.
And I think that was probably the last time I ever, and maybe the only time actually I ever really spent any amount of time with you, which wasn't even that much.
Yeah, because I was in Broome for 3 years before I moved, and you're one of those figures that like everybody knows. So I was like, oh yeah, I know Big Andy, of course, but like I don't know you.
Yeah. There's a lot of that. There's some people out there who think they really know me.
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, they don't know me. They don't know me.
Nah.
They really know me online. They say. And yeah, so I felt like once you'd moved, I started to see some real evolution, I think, in you. And I picked this up from your social media. I really felt like that you were like blossoming, or you'd found, I don't know what it was, because like I said, I don't know you that intimately at all, really. But I do remember this feeling of sometimes people go and do stuff, they move away, and you see growth, and you see a difference in what they're putting online, or how they look, or their general optimism, or whatever about life.
All of that definitely relates to me. Like I felt like I was treading water for a long time in Somerset, and like although like I loved living in Frome because it's the like coolest place in Somerset, but like it just felt not enough for me. Like it always felt not enough. Whatever I was doing always felt not enough. And then I moved to London, and I got out of a long relationship, which I think whenever you get out of a long relationship, you do a lot of growth. And yeah, all of those things together really made me kind of get in touch with what I wanted. And yeah, I always had such a wanting to be in London. So when I finally got there, I was like, right, I'm going for this now. And part of that was comedy.
Right.
So yeah, I was actually thinking about this on the drive over.
Right.
The first time I thought about doing comedy, I was 19, but I was living in this tiny little town in Wincanton. I was about to say, no one's going to know it, but you'll know.
Wincanton, massive.
Yeah, it's a shithole.
Shit.
I hated living there. It's actually quite nice now that I go back, but I don't want to be there full time. But yeah, I wanted to do it when I was living there, but just no opportunities really. And, I was 19. What the fuck was I going to talk about? I hadn't done anything. I actually, like the first person that recommended that I do stand-up, I made friends with a vicar. I had very few friends in Wincanton, and one of them was
the vicar.
A vicar that was 33.
No offence to vicars out there, but that sounds bleak.
Yeah, it was pretty bleak. He was like, the way you tell stories is like a stand-up. And I mean, he turned out to be a creep, but... And so often a 30-year-old hanging out with a 19-year-old, that will be the outcome. But we started writing something together because he said that he wanted...
So you were 13?
I was 19.
You were 19? Yeah. How old was he?
33. Yeah. I wasn't quite 13. Yeah, that would have been real dodgy. Because we used to go drinking together. I used to get shit-faced with the vicar. And then we'd head back to his and do a bit of writing.
This is weird, isn't it?
It was getting a little grey.
Weird.
But yeah, we started writing this sitcom together. And the thing is, I think there was
it about a 33-year-old vicar in love with a 19-year-old girl?
Child. But there was... I think there were some good bits, but I have no idea because we were smashed when we were doing it. So I was also taking some drugs at the time.
Was the vicar doing drugs? Tell me.
But I did see him once, like rifling through my bag trying to find some drugs.
Really?
Yeah, and I think he played it off like he was trying to help me out, but I think he wanted some.
You were his project.
Yeah. Totally.
He was trying to save you. You were his entrance into heaven.
He did tell me he wanted to save myself. I was like, what's that code for?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
But yeah, it's the weirdest thing. I really would love to like go back and read it because I bet a lot of it's horseshit.
Right.
But yeah. So that was my first thing. And then...
Your first foray into comedy?
Yeah. And it was pretty weird.
Right.
So yeah, but I'd always like write stuff down. I was like, oh, this is funny.
Yeah.
Like if I was watching a documentary or I just saw something funny, I'd like make a note. And so I do have notebooks that I find that I'm like, what the fuck was that?
I've got a bit in my phone that's notes for stand-up comedy.
Yeah. Oh, do you just stand up?
No.
You want to though?
No, I've thought about it. Like you, I've been told throughout my life, oh, you should do stand-up. I have so much respect for stand-up though.
Yeah.
Because you can sing, you can dance, you can act, you can do radio, you can write books, you can be a polymath.
Yeah.
How many of those people are also stand-up comedians? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
It's like such a different beast, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a ridiculous beast. And it's something that's, it's just, there's no path of least resistance with stand-up comedy, is there?
Yeah.
And it's not about who you know.
No.
It's not about what you look like.
It will get you so far.
Right.
But you actually have to deliver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. You can have all these guys that, oh no, I wrote my autobiography. I'm an author now. Or, I guested on that big hit and now I'm a, famous rapper now or something. And, and I was in this film and, that's really great. But stand-up requires something that can't be given to you externally.
Yeah.
Right? It's something that has to come from you.
Yeah,
and if
totally.
it isn't, it's sniffed out and extinguished immediately, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen so many acts on the open mic circuit that have been told that they're the funny guy in the office or whatever. And it just doesn't translate. It just doesn't. Yeah, exactly. Just doing finger guns. But it just doesn't work out.
Right.
There's nothing quite like it, really. I can't. It's an amazing feeling when you get a whole room full of people laughing at something you said.
Yeah, I think that's dangerous for me.
Yeah.
If I was thinking about this earlier, right? At some point in my life, I'm going to have to do a best man speech.
Okay.
How the hell do you do that? Right? But it's essentially a low-key strain of stand-up comedy, I think.
Totally.
Right? And if I nail that, which I will when the time
I
comes.
can see you do well.
I will leave that venue that day going, I'm going to do that again.
Yeah.
I'm going into stand-up. Because I'll be like, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Feeling that, being
having
on
a
a
room
roll.
in your hands. Yeah.
Oh God, I've really bigged up my best man speech writing, haven't I now?
Absolutely, you better kill.
I better kill it now. But I have so much respect for stand-up comedy. And there's a part of me that would really love to do it.
Yeah.
And I think if I really worked hard for 3 years, I could have a really solid 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But the trouble is, once you get to the end of that 3 years or whatever,
what do you do?
You look at that first 5 minutes and you're like, no, I've grown so much now. So at what point do you go, oh, right, this is ready, I'm going to take it out? There has to be an element of going out and failing, I think, isn't there?
Loads of failing. Loads and loads of failing. And it feels so shitty.
Right.
It really does. When you're going out with some new material and you're like, this is fucking brilliant.
Right.
Not that, I mean...
No, you have to think it's brilliant. Otherwise you wouldn't put yourself in such a vulnerable position.
It's difficult because, like you were saying, I always feel like I can do stuff. I'm the absolute opposite. I'm just constant imposter syndrome. But when I go to do a performance, when it's something new, I'm like, at least I find it funny. I think this is funny, and now I kind of bounce it off friends or my girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, they're biased.
Right.
They like me. So it's kind of you have to try and make the audience like you really quick and then get into the stuff. But yeah, when you think this is really funny and then it comes back and it's just a wall of silence. I'd rather someone said, you're shit, than just the silence. The worst thing is when there's a room full of people on the edge of smiling because they're like, I really want to laugh at her. She seems like a nice person.
Right.
But this isn't funny.
There's maybe some snobbery there as well because if you're in a prestigious comedy club,
yeah,
I'm sure there's a part of it where people are on the scene and they always go and watch these things, right? And they're probably someone who's like, well, I can't be seen to laugh at this if it's not really great.
I'm sure that happens, yeah. Well, that's usually when you're doing it to a bunch of comedians.
Right, right.
They're either so engrossed in their own psyche of I've got to go up and do that in a minute, or I've just done it and psychoanalyzing how it went.
Yeah.
Or they're just too cool.
Too cool for school.
Whereas I'm the opposite. I feel if I think something's funny, I will laugh louder and harder to be to show that I'm appreciating it.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's not the Andy Warhol school of cool, which is never be impressed by anything.
Yeah.
which is just crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if something's shit, then I'm not going to encourage it. But
Yeah, I just think stand-up is just amazing, isn't it? I would love to, I don't know, it's one of those things like, it's going to sound really douchey, but I'm not used to failing. That sounds douchey. And maybe I've just got to own that. But there's a lot of failure, isn't there?
There
in
is
stand-up
a
comedy.
lot of rejection.
And, like you said, rejection. And mostly everything I do goes all right. Goes
then
well.
you'll probably be all right.
And I don't know if that's just because of an attitude towards failure, not being actual failure, not seeing it as failure and being like, well, that's just something to learn from and not do again.
Yeah, I think you do have to kind of like change your perspective. Like the first time that I properly bombed, I was mortified because I had a really good run of first gigs where it went really well, and after the first one, I was so buzzed. It was at the Bill Murray, and it was packed out. It was a really great audience. Everybody was like really on board. They knew it was my first gig, and the high I felt was like insane.
Right.
But then maybe 3 or 4 gigs down the line, it was awful.
Did you get too confident?
I think so, yeah.
You just got a step ahead of yourself.
I cringe thinking about it now, but I remember there was an act that was probably the same sort of time on the circuit as me, and he was really nervous. So I was like, you just got to go up and not give a fuck. And then I went up and absolutely died. And I just wanted to like have the world like eat me up. It was awful.
Yeah. But this is the thing, isn't it? Is that with guys like the guys at the top of their game, the guys with a name, who've been on, say they've been on 8 out of 10 Cats, and they're on that sort of TV thing, and they're more like nationally recognised, probably more like mainstream celebrities. Yeah. Someone like Michael McIntyre or whatever, Jimmy Carr, people now, they have a pre-installed fan base, right?
Exactly.
So their next tour could be 20% less funny. They've probably still got the same laughs.
Oh, totally.
Because people want to like them. They want to laugh at them. They want them to be great. They're rooting for them. They're already going in psychologically.
Absolutely. They bought into it already.
Yeah. And they're like, you make me laugh on TV every Friday night. We're like mates, right?
The profile has done a lot of the hard work for them. Because like I say, you go in to a room that like people that don't know you, and you've got to get them on side and laugh at your stuff. In
about 2 minutes, you've got to get them on side with you, right?
30 seconds to say something funny, really, to get people to be like, okay, I trust them.
Okay. So, I mean, we're not in a comedy club right now.
Okay.
But what's your go-to currently when you get on stage? What's your body language like? Do you take the mic straight out the mic stand?
Yeah. You've got to take the mic. You've got to show that you know what you're doing. Take the mic straight out. Put the stand at the back.
Right. So you're like, I'm fucking here now.
Yeah.
And I'm business.
I try to stay centered because I've been told it's better energy for the crowd. But I always sway. I don't know why. I can't stop myself swaying.
Right. Do they like that bit? Because
I don't know.
A little bit of like.
Maybe I'm trying to seem
Ray
bigger
Charles,
than I am.
Bit of Stevie. It's not a Stevie Wonder, is it? It's not.
No, it's not quite that extreme.
Right.
But I do I go from one foot to the other. Like
it's a nervous energy, isn't it?
It is a nervous energy. I do, but I think that is part of my persona that I'm kind of on this little anxiety ball, which is who I am.
Right.
But I do have my favourite opener, which I will do for you now, but it will fall flat because I'm not going to deliver it in the right way.
Okay. I'm now in my head, I'm deciding, do you laugh, Andy, out of politeness if it's not funny? Do you laugh in the spirit of the podcast and mutually backing each other up? Or do you go, yeah, I can see why that would work, and not laugh?
I think it would be funnier if you just have dead silence afterwards. Maybe like put in a tumbleweed sound.
Okay, I'm going to try not to laugh. Okay, how's that, right?
Okay, because now if you don't laugh, it's because we said about that bit, not because it's not funny.
Yeah.
So I say, guys, I had my washing machine replaced recently, and my landlord turned around to me and said, listen, guys, you're going to have to treat this like your baby. And I say, get rid of it within 24 weeks.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to laugh at that.
And that's why I like it, because like it really...
That joke wouldn't work in Texas anymore, would it?
No. Yeah, I haven't been asked at all there. No.
You haven't been asked back?
No.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. All right. So where do you go from there? Like, you've set the bar pretty low.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
I do reference that it's like it can only get up from there, you know. So yeah, I do bits about relationships. So when I developed that joke, it was when I was doing a relationship.
Right, sorry.
No, what a wanker.
Right. When I was in the lab with a pen and a pad. Sorry.
But I was doing a set about relationships. So I go into my relationships. But at the moment, I'm developing wanker. I'm actually doing a set about crime.
Right.
Because I've been robbed a bunch of times in lockdown. If it can get any worse.
Well, you know what they say, write what you know.
Exactly,
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so, right, okay, I don't know what to do now. So you've gone... Is this a tactic though? So you go,
I disarm them.
figure out where the line is with the crowd immediately.
Yeah, totally.
And then you go, well, fucking hell, I'm gonna have to
I'll drop
clean
that
this
joke about suicide.
Well, yeah. Oh, you don't like that? You're gonna hate the incest.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting. I find comedians, the psychology of it, the art of it, everything about it, so fascinating.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm a bit autistic about it, and I can say that because I've got ADHD, so I'm on the spectrum. Thanks.
I think I've got ADHD.
We've probably all got it, like, you know, if we're doing this stuff.
Yeah, totally.
And sometimes I'll sit there and watch a comedian and not laugh.
Yeah.
And it's weird, but I won't laugh because I'm sat there and I'm like, oh, I wonder how you got to that bit. I'm analysing it. Instead of just enjoying it at face value, I'm being analytical about it. And I'm trying to figure... And that is sometimes how I enjoy some of the... Like, Bill Hicks does not make me laugh out loud.
Really?
No. But I love to listen to him, and I love how he puts the story together.
Yeah, it's crazy watching... Yeah. I mean, I think the whole, like, breaking it down, that's basically how I got really interested in comedy. And I was listening to an interview with Phil Jupitus, and he was saying, I started doing comedy, basically, because... I was going to a load of comedy shows and I was analysing how they should, like, punch up their jokes. And I kept on saying this to my friends, and they were like, just write a fucking set.
Right.
So, yeah.
And if you've got all the bright ideas, why don't you do it?
And, yeah, because he started out as Porky the Poet. Do you know this?
I don't know this.
Yeah.
No. I've met Phil Jupitus.
Have you? Well, I sort of did.
He was very nice.
Yeah.
It was only briefly.
Yeah, me too. He was he was wearing a bright purple suit, so I couldn't help but notice him.
Right. You want to be noticed,
yeah,
don't
exactly.
you, when you wear that? Yeah.
But he started off as Porky the Poet, and so he was doing poetry, and he was supporting Billy Bragg.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, this makes sense.
It all like fits together. And he would do the poetry, but then in between he would make funny comments, and then I think it may have been him. It may have been Billy Bragg, but it might have been somebody else that said, drop the poetry, just do the comedy.
Right.
Yeah.
Because Billy Connolly was a bit like that.
Oh,
he
yeah?
was one of these sort of long-haired, well, he's always got long hair, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But he was one of these kind of like hippies in the 60s. He used to work at the dockyards or something. So he had a proper like, masculine job industry. And then in the evenings he was doing, that was the other option or something. You know, that was the kind of area he came from. And he was a folk singer, and he'd just tell funny stories between songs, and eventually the songs just got less and less, and the stories got more and more.
And he still does a bit of when he was performing, he would do songs in his sets.
Would he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember this. Yeah. I haven't actually watched a hell of a lot of Billy Connolly stuff because I like him. I respect him. I think he's really cool.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It doesn't quite do it for me.
Really?
Other than the bit when he was talking about Toblerone in hotel rooms.
I can't remember.
And how they keep it in the fridge so you can never like fucking bite through it. And he's talking about having an Alp in his mouth and he's just drooling all over it. That made me laugh. And something about diarrhea that was so explosive. He said his ass was hanging in tatters. I liked that. It's hanging in tatters. And then I liked the bit when he was talking about the scrotum as just being a hairy brain.
Oh.
Looks like a hairy brain.
Oh,
but that's it for Billy Connolly for me, really.
I mean, I can't quote any of his material, but I do. I mean, my dad's Glaswegian, so he's a big fan. And yeah, I love him. He's a very funny man.
Who is your favourite comedian? We should probably talk about that.
See, I find it quite hard to say because, like...
Does it change all the time?
I guess so. I guess the one that's been the most constant is Maria Bamford.
Okay.
And so I actually got into her not that long ago, really. It was when I was like seriously looking into doing comedy when I was still living in Frome. And I was looking at, if you want to be a comedian, these are the comedians you should know.
Right.
And she was on the list. And I was like, I can't believe I don't know her. Because I knew most of the other ones because I'm a bit of a comedy nerd. And yeah, she's incredible. She's from... I can't remember exactly where she's from, but she lives in LA now. And she's so funny. She does impressions of her parents and she does other voices and things. But she's really kind of like a surreal, observational comedian.
Okay.
Yeah, she's got some specials on Netflix.
Maybe
she's
I know
bloody
her.
brilliant.
So she's British?
No, she's American.
American.
From Duluth. There we go.
Okay. I saw some... Last year, I saw a bunch of... comedy specials on Netflix from women, and I tell you what, they were much better. I'm not just saying this for like woke points or something, but like they were like incredible, like really fucking great.
Yeah,
much better than some of the stuff I've seen from the dudes.
Absolutely. Shamefully, I felt that there was a point. I guess it's when I got into her that I was like, oh, actually, most of the comedians I like are men. Maybe I should look into more women. And so yeah, from then onwards, I feel like now. All my favourite comedians probably are women.
Right.
So I really love Lee Sanders. I think she's amazing. She's a bit of a weirdo as well.
Wow. You're all weirdos, aren't
Absolutely. Well, I was actually having a chat on my podcast the other day because it was another comedian that I was interviewing. Although I don't like to think of it as an interview. I like to think of it as a chat, you know.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because I wouldn't call these interviews. No. But what do you call them?
I know, like... just having a chat.
In conversation with.
Yeah, that's what your late night show should be.
Yeah.
In conversations with.
Yeah, I'd like it to be smoky and pretentious.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, fuck it. Lost that thread. But basically, yes, there's lots of different influences. Like I was listening to a podcast earlier today and was thinking, oh my God, actually, I didn't really think about this. I don't feel like it actually influences my comedy, but when I was a kid, I absolutely loved Shooting Stars. And like, I watched it with my whole family.
Is that the one with...
Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer.
And what's his name? Matt Lucas on the drums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
George Dawes.
I never really got those guys.
I loved it.
People love them. I need to go back and like... I know there's something in there. There's an irreverence, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I need to go back and I need to just get on board with it because I know that there's genius in it.
It's so good.
I just haven't had my penny drop moment with it yet.
My parents had a VHS of it and I remember watching it over and over and over. I was too young. I don't think I was old enough to be watching it really, but all the day stuff kind of just went over my head.
Yeah, it's probably more about, it's quite a visual thing, isn't it? Because their comedy's quite slapstick, isn't it? At times.
Yeah, they're like actually hitting each over the head with pans. Like actually hitting each other.
Maybe I do need to go back and watch this.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what I enjoyed actually about the female comedy I was watching last year is actually it's quite eye-opening for a bloke.
I bet it is, yeah.
Because but it can also create a bit of sort of like
neurosis,
right? You'd be like, oh, I hope they didn't talk about me like that. But it's very interesting because it's the female experience, presented in a way that's like
not usually seen.
not usually seen, or it's disarming. It could be disarming for men who have like a. I mean, I'm open to when you watch it. You're like, I don't care if you're a man or a woman. I want to be entertained. I want to laugh, right? So if you're going in with that open mind and there's no like real agenda, is there, to a comedy special, and you don't feel like there's any indoctrination or there's any, do you know what I mean? Like, so when you hear these things, it's not like you don't feel attacked or like picked on or anything's unfair. You just kind of like, I feel like it's really palatable and you can go, oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Totally.
Oh, I didn't think about how that would make you feel, or do you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely. And I think comedy is a really great way of like opening people up to your experiences that like you would not know what it's like to be a lesbian.
No, I'd like to.
Yeah, I'm sure. But like, there's so many lesbian comics out there that are brilliant, and it will change your perspective on that demographic.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do find it. Like I was running a joke past a male friend of mine a while back, and it was digging at men, but it's something that I've actually experienced. I can't even remember what it was now, but he got so upset with me about it. And he actually said these words. I won't tell him to listen to this. He'll be all right. But he was like, if you want equality, you've got to treat men the same as you would treat women.
Well, that is equality.
And I was like,
but
okay.
Right, he's missing the point.
Let's look at the fucking way the world is, shall we?
Yeah.
As soon as we are equal, I will stop talking like we aren't, you know? Like, and if I'm not talking about you, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about my experiences with men. And it's like, the only way I can explain it to men if they're feeling a bit put out. I used to watch this show that is run by two black women in New York, and a lot of the jokes are at the expense of white people, and it took me aback to start with, and I was just like, oh, should I be offended? Like, what do I... Like, a lot of white guilt and a lot of, like, my hang-ups being brought up. But I was like... Oh, but the stuff that they're saying doesn't relate to me, or some of the stuff does, and I'll address that.
Right.
Like, rather than be like, fuck you, like, don't say that about me.
Yeah.
I kind of took it on board and was like, they are entitled to their opinion of their experience.
Yeah.
And I'm entitled to my experience, to my point of view about my experience.
Right.
It's like, they're not talking about me, so I'm not going to get offended. And if they are talking about me, maybe I should address that behaviour.
Yeah, there's a certain element of, you know, having a robust ego, isn't there? Or being self-aware enough to and also if you're choosing to indulge these people and this product, let's say, psychologically you're open to it. Right?
Exactly.
So you've invited, I guess it's you and your laptop or your iPad or whatever, and you've invited that into your home, into your space, into your free time, whatever. And so there's something with that I feel is like a lot of those elements work towards, you know, being able to deliver a message properly. You know, if you're in a crowd of your peers or whatever, and you heard things, maybe there's more opportunity to be defensive or whatever. But if you're sat at home and you're letting this happen, there's no one else around you, and you can just sit there and think about it for a minute, and you don't have to tell anyone that you knew that what they'd said, or you'd heard that, or you're aware of that.
I'm not actually like that, just so you know.
Right? Yeah. You don't have to do. So you can go, oh, that does apply to me.
Yeah.
And you can sit there and choose whether to better yourself or work towards a better outcome next time, or you can choose to disregard it, and you don't have to tell anyone about that either way, right?
Yeah, totally.
So I think it's quite powerful. There's that choice of like, so we're going to do better here, or we not, because no one's putting you under any pressure
no one's
to do it.
forcing you to do anything. If anything, the world is saying carol as you like.
Right? But this is your choice now.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, okay. I think that's kind of, there's something in that there's something to be said about that.
Totally.
Psychologically, I don't know what though. But yeah, no, it's great. I love talking about comedy.
Me too.
What would you, if you had to put your comedy in a sort of a genre or a style, where would you sit?
I would say it's storytelling, but it's dark humour.
Right.
Yeah.
I love dark humour.
Yeah. So, yeah, the abortion joke really helps set the mood
Right.
for bringing on any other subject. It makes me see who's on board and who's not.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, it's like, when you get out there, you need to see what the line is for the audience.
Yeah, totally.
And do they change or they just, because I hear it all the time in comedy things, and someone says a dark, edgy joke and they go, oh, fucking hell, I didn't like that one. I know where your line is now. We're not going to do the necrophilia thing later on.
Yeah.
You think, well, which city went for the necrophilia bit, right? Like, who are the necros? Like, where are they? Like, what's
Brighton.
Brighton?
I haven't done gigs much out of London, really. In 2020, I had a bunch of gigs booked for up north, and I was hoping to really develop and see how it worked outside of London, because I don't want to be just a London comic.
Right.
Ideally, it'd be nice to do tours and stuff, but I'm not at that point yet. But I definitely see a difference between when I do a queer night and when I do a regular bar night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about this.
Well, they like me better at queer nights.
You are one of them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with my people. Oh, I remember what I was saying. See, ADHD.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
When I came to comedy, I felt like I'd found my people, and so this was the first scene that I'd actually been part of. So as well as developing myself as a human, there was this other side that was opened up to me. Sorry, yeah, that was.
No, carry on, crack on. That's great.
This is the ADHD brain. I haven't been diagnosed, but when you had loads of town time in lockdown, I paid £5 to the Autism Society to do a test, and they said that I'm 75% sure that I've got ADHD.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah. I'm diagnosed. Is there a hierarchy? I don't know.
Yeah, you're a better ADHDer than me.
I know for sure.
Yeah. But I do think there's a bit of a power with a diagnosis.
Yes.
I got diagnosed dyslexic when I was 24 when I was doing my degree. And I knew my entire life I was dyslexic, but having that piece of paper being oh yeah, this is why you're so shit at school.
Right, yeah, I've got some friends, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but they've known for years that their daughter is autistic.
Oh, yeah.
And they've known, and it's been almost undebated. You can't debate it, undeniable. She's autistic. It's very obvious, right? And the doctors have basically been saying it, but obviously the diagnosis thing is a separate thing, isn't it? The doctor can say, well, you would, we're sure that this is the route to take now, because, but a diagnosis, I guess, comes later on. And she was saying that when she went to the doctors, and she was 5 or something at this point, this little girl, she got her diagnosis, and she said that she was just so emotional, as a mum, so emotional after it. And I thought that was interesting, because they basically told her what she already knew, but it was finally recognised.
Yeah, it was confirmed.
And I don't want to say the struggle, because this little girl is amazing and she's gorgeous
sure
and delightful.
But it's having a diagnosis means that you can set about how the best way to look after her is.
Right.
To nurture her to the best of your ability.
Yeah, the first day of the rest of her life.
Exactly.
Is that moment.
And the fact that she had it so young is perfect. It's because you're still at such a developmental part at 5. I think they say 6 is where you're best to learn languages or something.
Is it?
But yeah, if you have something like that, a diagnosis at that age will set you up for the rest of your life to know how to, I don't want to say deal with it, but you know what I mean? How to best cater
and
to
manage,
her.
cope or set new...
Exactly.
set new mechanisms into place or whatever. Yeah, I was talking about this earlier at work, as I now work in.
Of course.
I now work in a school.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, I'm working in a school, which is great. If I was a stand-up comedian, I'd have so much material from the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It would be insane. So I work in a school which deals with specialist educational needs. There's a lot of autism and ADHD and what would have formerly been known as Asperger's, but I don't think that's PC anymore.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure. Someone said it's got a throw. The root of it is from Nazi.
Oh God.
The way that Nazis would distinguish between high functioning and low. I don't know, something like that. Some grim history lessons.
Bloody Nazis again.
What would have formerly been known as Asperger's until recently is catered for at this school, and they are hilarious.
Yeah,
they're hilarious. Some of the stuff I can't tell you. I'll tell you after. But one of them the other day, I worked one-to-one with this guy, and I won't say his name. And so I was just removing these bats, this baseball bat from the art room that was meant to be painted and decorated, and I started removing a cricket bat, and I was just gently giving it to a teacher in the hallway, just because it's like it wasn't just him; they were all a bit hyped up, and I just didn't want these bats involved.
Don't introduce weapons.
into the art room of all places. And he caught wind of this and grabbed an arm from a mannequin, and he walked down the corridor with it over his shoulder, right? Because he knew that we were doing something sneaky, and he went, "Andy, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, nothing, mate. I was just handing this bat through the door to the other teacher," and he goes, "I'm fucking armed."
Brilliant.
And me and the other teacher and him just stood in the hallway laughing, just laughing together. And then he's good as gold, really.
Yeah.
I'm really very fond of him.
How are you finding it all?
I love it.
Yeah.
Much better than what I was doing previously, working in that shop. I don't know how I was in there the other day buying something, and I was thinking, how the fuck did I do this?
How long
ever?
did you work there?
It's like 10 years.
Fuck. Wow.
But I was working on this podcast and I was touring the world and doing other great things.
Oh, no, totally, yeah.
So that's my justification for staying there. But
I like you say, I follow each other on social media and that.
Yeah.
I just had assumed that Co-op had fallen by the wayside and that you were doing all this other stuff.
That's the plan.
And then when I listened to one of these podcasts the other day, I was like, holy shit, he's still at Co-op.
Some things never change. But yes, no, Co-op has officially fallen by the wayside. Good riddance and goodbye. But also thank you for all of that. But it's done now and I'm never going back.
Good.
And I'm really enjoying this new job.
Chapter.
It's good. It's really good. And like I said, if you worked in a school like that, you'd have so much material.
If you want to give me any stories, then
I'll give you one or two after this. I probably shouldn't put on the pod. But they're great. They're great. And actually prefer them to like normal
people.
Normal humans. I'm like one of them. I feel like they've accepted me into their like neurodiverse tribe and have seen me as one of their own. And it's a really lovely feeling.
That's nice.
It's fantastic. It's amazing. But yes. So let's move away from this day job before I start saying stuff that I'm not allowed to say by accident.
Don't want to edit too much.
Tell me about your podcast. Where are you at with your podcast right now? And just tell people tell me what your general idea of what your podcast is, because we were talking about this earlier before we started, as in like, what is the giant pod?
Yeah.
So what is Subfun? And I'm still standing. Let's start with Subfun.
Okay, Subfun. So basically, I was finding that every comedy night I went to was run by straight white men, and I found there was a lot of places that I would take a long time to get a gig at.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the women thing or the queer thing or whatever. And sometimes I wouldn't do so well at those shows. And sometimes I'd do better than they expected. And so I teamed up with this other comedian And we just wanted to do a night that was supporting women, basically, and wanted to make it a really fun night. So some of these nights, like, you feel like they're just trying to get as many people on the bill to get as many people in the seats. So, like, there's this thing called bringer. So it's a bringer gig.
What's
where
that?
To be able to perform, you have to bring somebody. So sometimes these shows will have 20 people on the bill, so there'll at least be 20 people in the audience.
That feels really desperate.
It really is.
I don't know if I'm laughing at Act 18.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
It's
I don't know.
tedious. The
Right.
amount of times when I've turned up and I've realised I'm at the bottom half of the second half, and I'm like, fuck. Like, first of all, you're supposed to stay to the end. Nobody fucking does.
Right.
And so you've got
It's
the
the same
dregs.
with bands. The
Yeah.
music scene and the comedy scene, I think there's probably a lot of crossovers or parallels.
Definitely.
You've got the people that will come up, do their stand-up and fuck off home and not
Yeah.
watch the guys afterwards. That's a no-no in the music scene.
Yeah.
And also, you know, you bring a load of people with
Yeah.
you to the gig, and or a band does, and you think, oh great, there's a decent turnout tonight,
Yeah.
and they're all fucking outside until that band is on, and then
Exactly.
everyone piles in, and then they all fuck off again, and you
it's
play to
quite
5
disheartening.
people.
Yeah. So we wanted to make it a night that was a bit more fun, made sure this sounds wanky, but we kind of made this little community. So we did it before the lockdown came in. We'd done it for about a year and a half. And I did some over the lockdown as well. I did about six different shows over the first part of this year. And I had people like messaging me saying, when's Subfun going again? And because we made this night that was really fun. Sorry.
You're right. Do you need some water?
No, I had like a sneeze and a cough at the same time.
Oh,
Is that a snuff?
you heard it here first.
Or a seize? I don't know.
A seize probably feels like everything's seized.
Yeah. I just had, when you've got that tickle of the sneeze. And it just, yeah.
Yeah. I
Just-
do like that though.
Yeah.
It's a weird. It's like a head climax, isn't it?
Yeah, well, they say it's like a 16th of an orgasm or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Probably bullshit. So yeah, we just wanted to make this night that was really fun. We had a deal with the bar where all the acts got drinks, and it just had this kind of fun vibe. And I hate the word vibe. I can't believe that just came out of my mouth. But we got this really nice group of comedians. A lot of them were female and queer and people of colour, and just trying to make it a bit more of a diverse lineup. Sometimes not possible, and not have a million acts on the show. I think we capped it at 9, so we tried to have 9 or less, and everybody gets 5 minutes, except for the headliner, and so it's like
5 minutes.
yeah.
30 seconds of that is posturing, isn't it?
Yeah,
basically?
totally.
So you've got 4.5 minutes.
To win them over.
And do you
But,
get those
that's
greedy
standard.
fucks that are like, oh yeah, I'll do
Oh.
6 or 7 because they're loving it?
They're going to get flashed if they go over.
What's flashed mean?
So not
Not like that. No,
not like that.
No, because then everyone would stay on
Exactly.
stage, wouldn't they?
Like, yeah, carry on. No,
Oh,
basically,
they love me.
that's the difference between the music scene and the comedy scene.
Right.
You don't want to get flashed at a comedy scene. Like you basically, it's a cardinal sin to go over your time.
Okay.
So everybody knows not to go over your time because everything's timed, everything's worked out. But if somebody's really killing it, I'll let them go over. But
Right.
by the time it's gone over by a minute, I'm like, it's like,
What's the flash though? Is it a torch?
it's like a torch. Yeah, I use my phone.
You just put the SOS on.
Well, if it carries on too long, I've had to walk on stage once and be like, all right, enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad,
Yeah.
isn't it? That's bad.
Yeah.
Did you ever book them again?
I can't remember. Probably, because they were good, but yeah. It's just, the thing is, I think it's really rude to the rest of your performers. Like, there's 6, 7 of us that all want to do our bit. You do your bit, and then you fuck off.
Right.
But stay in the audience, please.
We want 1 pound of flesh.
Yeah.
And then you fuck off.
Yeah, do what you're supposed to do, and then get off. But we usually had people sticking to their time, and like if they thought that they were overrunning, like, can I do like one more story? And it was just a bit more of a chilled out environment than some of the places that I went to.
So does it feel more nurturing?
Yeah, I think so.
Than sort of there's going to be elitism, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely.
In every
and that's what
culture.
I fucking hated.
Right.
I didn't really fit in with a lot of the established nights. So I was like, well, I'll just do my own and see what happens there. And yeah, it was fun.
Good.
I really hope to do it again. I just need to find a venue.
What happened to your previous venue?
Well, they just kind of fucked me off a bit.
All right.
Yeah, there was like this, we were supposed to be getting paid towards the end, and then that didn't happen, and then lockdown came in, and I kept on trying to communicate with them to do, like, I was trying to do some outdoor gigs and wanted them to do the bar and all this stuff,
right.
which is in their interest, but they just never really got back to me on anything. So I thought, you know what? Fuck you.
Bastards.
And I've moved now, so I don't live close to that venue anymore.
Okay.
So.
What part of London are you in now?
I'm still in South East London, but I'm practically on the border of Kent.
Oh, very nice.
Yep,
Very
Garden
nice.
of England.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a very nice area, actually.
I bet, I've heard.
Yeah, it's very
I think
nice.
I've been to Kent. I've been to Kent. You've got to go through Kent to get to Dover, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I don't know. Yeah, I
Doesn't
expect
matter.
you do.
Who cares?
I expect you do. Geography isn't my thing.
When someone says I'm from Kent, in my head there's a hand doing that thing with the thumbs and the fingers are rubbing together, for the money. I'm from Kent, and I think quitting. Oh, you must be quitting. Yeah,
Right.
I don't know why. It's my own
there's
ignorance,
lots
probably.
of rich areas, I think.
Yeah.
But like where we are, it's a real juxtaposition.
Okay.
Yeah, which I quite like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So the Subfun, that's the Subfun night.
Yeah, that's the night.
So what's the Subfun podcast?
So
is it the people that are on the night do the podcast?
I don't have a podcast with that. So the podcast
is I'm Still Standing.
Is I'm Still Standing, yeah.
I thought that was your...
So eventually I want to do the panel show, which will be the Subfun panel show, which will have a podcast attached to it.
Because it's on your Instagram bio, it says host at I'm Still Standing and Subfun.
Okay, hang on. I thought it was host... Brainchild,
yes, it
which
says
I
that.
thought was funny. Brainchild and host.
Hashtag I'm Still Standing.
Yeah.
And Subfun.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
But I host both of them, I guess.
You do?
And I thought of both of them. I am the brainchild.
They're your brainchild.
Yeah.
You're not the brainchild.
Yeah.
They're your brain children.
They're my brainchildren.
Okay, so tell me about the I'm Still Standing podcast. But the Subfun is becoming a podcast.
It will eventually, yeah.
Right,
Once I've got a venue, I want to, do the panel show. I'm going to try and do it on Zoom with a bunch of comedians to start with. And then,
Well, this is my confusion.
Yeah, I've got a lot of projects I want to do.
There's a lot going on with you,
I've got
isn't there?
scripts that I want to write as well.
God. It's not a sitcom about a 33-year-old vicar.
No, it's not. It's actually about a homeless man.
Is it?
It is.
Is it a
it's going to
former
be funny.
vicar? A former disgraced vicar.
I totally destroyed that man, and now he's a homeless man. No, it's about a true crime story, but it's very involved. I've not got anywhere with it. I know I know what the main character is like, and I know what the other kind of main character is like, but I don't have anything pinned down.
Okay.
It's all in the.
This is a very ADHD thing as well. Yeah. Is that you start a million projects and finish none of them.
Yes.
But I believe in you.
I have gone through with a bunch of them.
I believe in you because you have a proven track record.
Yeah, I do.
So I'm willing to say I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Because I think it will arrive.
And do you know what? I'll have you as a guest on it. There you go.
On what? This true crime? What? On
not on the
I'm Still Standing podcast.
On the panel show.
The panel, right?
So sorry, my brain hops about.
Put me on this panel show.
Yeah,
okay.
So I'm going to be the host, obviously, and then there'll be two constant comedians. I've got one signed up. She's brilliant. She's a character act. Amy Cooper.
Okay.
She's very funny, but she's got a few characters she does. I haven't nailed down the other one yet.
Okay.
But then there'll be 2 other on each team.
So they're the
guests.
captains, if you
They
will.
are the captains,
right.
yeah.
So this is following a traditional formula.
Exactly.
For TV panel
Exactly.
shows.
Yes.
Okay. Again, another ADHD moment because I want to talk about your podcast.
Yeah.
But I can't help but say to you, what's your favourite panel show in history?
Oh, okay.
It's a big one, isn't it?
I would say, and this one, I don't think it's ever made it to video.
Right.
So this is a nerdy podcast thing, but
Right.
I fucking love it. The host is a fellow petite lady. She's not queer though.
Right.
Danielle Ward. It's Do the Right Thing. It's so brilliant. And there's loads of series of it, but I think they're on a bit of a hiatus at the moment.
So it's a podcast panel show.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I meant like a TV. So like Mock the Week, 8 out of 10
Hey.
Cats. News.
You didn't clarify.
Did I not?
No.
Sorry. That's another ADHD thing.
Because I think that is better than any recorded film panel show.
Okay.
But if I have to, let me think. I do like 8 out of 10 Cats does Countdown. I don't really like the original.
Right.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
I do like Countdown.
They're
That's
10 a
probably
penny
helped.
though, aren't they?
Oh, totally.
Those panel shows.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I
what-
mean, I love Buzzcocks.
Buzzcocks
That's
was
coming
great.
back.
Yes. Without Amstel.
Yeah.
Which he seems quite cool about, apparently.
Yeah, I find it kind of weird that Greg Davis is doing it though. I'm a
one's
big
Greg
fan of
Davis?
his. He's the one that's massive. So he was in The In-Betweeners, he does Taskmaster.
Oh, the big chap.
Yeah.
He's hilarious.
I really rate him. I think he's hilarious.
His second appearance on the Richard Herring's
Yeah.
podcast,
I love that
Rehistlip-
podcast.
what do you-
Rahelistiper?
Rahelistiper, is incredible. His second appearance.
Oh my
I
God,
think.
yeah. I
He
was like,
talks
which
about
one
his
was
friend who's eating cheese, grated cheese or something. I was belly laughing
Yeah,
during that.
yeah.
That was great. Yeah, interesting choice because Simon Amstel was a very sort of nerdy, geeky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to use the word beta male.
Yes.
But that was fully leaned into.
Oh, totally. That's
he
his-
wasn't
that's
a
his
commanding
shtick.
host. That
Yeah.
he was the kind of just about holding it together.
But yeah, I think that's like after they had Mark Lamar, who was just telling everyone to fuck off, basically.
Right.
It was like, we can't get a Mark
I forgot
Lamar
he did it.
like.
I forgot he did it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we can't have someone that's like him. We have to go
You have to do the
complete
opposite.
extreme.
Yeah. Right. And well, that is a smart choice.
Which I guess then again, they've done the extreme again because like the authoritarian Greg Davis. But I feel like I really like him in Taskmaster. I think he's brilliant in that role.
Yeah.
But it is a role that's made for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work in Buzzcocks, but Daisy May Cooper and him have a great rapport.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's that fella? The ginger chap. He's got a special on Netflix. Really funny. He's got a very, very, very unique style.
Is he English?
Yes.
Right. Ginger English.
And Rich Wilson has had him on his podcast.
Right. I'm not narrowing it down.
Our friend Rich Wilson. What's his name?
I don't know.
He's really funny, and he plays a kind of nerdy, kind of like
Oh, I know exactly who you mean. James Acaster.
James Acaster.
Yeah.
He would be great on the Buzzcocks,
Yeah.
but he would be a similar vibe to Amstel, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think Nish Kumar would be good.
Who?
Nish Kumar.
Yes. This is like fantasy football.
Yeah,
This is like
exactly.
fantasy
Well,
castings
why don't we
for
get a fucking woman in there? Why don't Daisy May Cooper do it? I think she'd be a great host.
yes. Valid point.
Yeah.
Just because it's been two
It's
dudes
been-
before.
Yeah. Exactly.
I like that Irish woman. I can't remember her name either. She's
What,
very-
Aisling B?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's very funny.
She's very funny.
She's
yeah.
very, very funny.
Yeah, I haven't watched the second season of This Way Up, but I'm sure it's just as excellent.
No, I haven't watched it. You're really nerdy about comedy, aren't you?
Yeah.
You love it. I'm a bit more like I like Jerry Seinfeld because
Okay.
he talks about the process.
So do you like Stuart Lee as well?
Yes,
Yeah.
although I don't laugh at Stuart Lee.
Yeah, he's
I just sit and watch.
it's a delayed thing with him, isn't it?
Yeah, like the genius washes over, like the realization of the genius washes over you about 30 seconds later and he's already on to the next thing.
Yeah. The thing that annoys me about Stuart Lee, though,
Right.
is like his fans that do stand-up, they think that they're him. It drives me fucking nuts.
Right.
The amount of
Oh, I
like
hate
Stuart Lee
These
clones
little
I've seen on...
Morrissey's getting up,
Yeah,
trying to
I'm
be
just
like
like,
wry and...
You're not clever enough.
Yeah, just not that.
Like, you, that's been done, and it's
Yeah.
been done very well, and you're not going to...
Yeah.
I hate to slag people off, but it's just like, get your own shtick.
Right? Because he's an archetype.
Yeah.
Because what he does, no one does... Well, people do it. Jerry Seinfeld's a very classic comedian, but he is the typical of that. He's the archetype of that style of comedy. Same with Ricky Gervais. He was an archetype. And after that, you could see a load of people doing the same brand of comedy.
Totally.
Bill Hicks is an archetype.
Yeah.
George Carlin was an archetype. What's his face? The one they love. The one they all love. The GOAT. Richard Pryor
Oh, right.
was an archetype.
The one they all love.
They all love him. They all love Richard Pryor. They all say
they
he's
do.
the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
Chris Rock archetype. And so Stuart Lee is as well. And the thing is with Stuart Lee is for Stuart Lee to pull off that Stuart Lee persona, however clever and ingenious you think he is on stage, he has to be probably 20 or 30% cleverer
Yeah, he's got to
in
dumb it
real
down.
life to envision that and put that together. Like the one you're seeing on stage, so intelligent, like crazy clever, like next level. His thought patterns, the way he thinks, is completely different to most other people. But then you have to realize that to even put that together and to get that onto the stage and to be in that character, he has to be cleverer than the Stuart Lee that you know.
Exactly.
Which is impressive. And they don't see that. They
No.
won't see that.
No.
So they'll be Diet Stuart Lee.
Yeah.
Pound,
Like, what's the fucking point?
Poundland Lee.
Exactly. You don't want to be the poor man's Lee.
I should get into comedy. I've figured this game out.
You should just slag off all the
Right?
slag off all the other acts. I'm sure that'll
There's
go
gonna be all
down
these
really
Stuart
well.
Lee comedians out there listening to it going, oh my God, he's right.
Yeah.
It is not enough to just be Stuart Lee.
Yeah.
You have to be Stuart Lee plus.
You have to be Stuart Lee off stage. And I
Right.
don't think that's fun.
Yeah, you've got to have that.
His wife's fucking hilarious though. I've seen
Is she?
her a bunch of times. Yeah. She's really great. I saw her doing a work in progress like years ago. And she was just working off a notepad, and it was maybe like 2 or 3 months before Edinburgh. And it was so good. And I thought, I cannot wait to see this finished. Never did, because I forget about these things.
Because ADHD.
Yeah.
Right, so we're going back to the I'm Still Standing podcast.
Yes.
And we'll wrap this up after that.
Okay,
I
cool.
want to know about this podcast.
Okay. So I started this podcast because I had gone through a trauma. And I noticed that I was always kind of like dealing with it in the same sort of way.
Was that a sort of destructive way?
I guess in the past more so, yeah.
Right.
But it was like the beginning of it was always the same, that I would like ignore that it's happening, hope it goes away. Obviously it gets bigger, harder to deal with. And then that can lead to destructive things.
Right.
Which I like, as I'm getting to know myself more, like within the last 6 years, I'm stopping doing the destructive stuff so much.
Interesting.
But I still do this whole, it will rectify itself, which it doesn't. So now I'm in therapy, I'm medicated, things are good. But I just really wanted to like tap into that whole coping mechanism and like see what other people's are. And I also like, I really love to talk about trauma. I find it really fascinating.
Yeah.
But mostly because I don't want to have like a heavy conversation and then we cry and it's all heavy. Like I like having a heavy conversation with people that can take the piss out of me 5 seconds later.
Right.
So I picked people that I knew had
I'm
gone
thinking
through,
of something to take the piss out of you for now.
but like I knew they'd gone through some pretty major things.
Yeah.
But I also knew that they either had incredible ways of coping with it, and are hilarious or had ridiculous ways of coping with it. And we could talk about that. So I wanted it to be a comedy podcast about trauma.
Okay.
And I feel like I got that.
And so when you're picking your guests, you have to say like,
don't take yourself too seriously.
right. But you are talking about your trauma.
Yeah. So
Right.
the way I did it to start with, so it was in lockdown, in the first lockdown, I just put a note out on the Subfun page because I knew there's a bunch of comedians that follow me. I had some friends that I'd already decided I was going to ask to be part of it.
Right.
Because I've got quite funny friends as well.
I fucking hope so.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, this is going to seem like a strange concept, but I want to do a podcast that is primarily about trauma, but we talk about it in a lighthearted way. So my tagline is a lighthearted chat about heavy shit.
Like it?
Yeah. And I tried to like coin this hashtag, but I'm the only one that's using it. So I don't think you can say that I'm trending.
Right.
But it's something that I've always said about myself, turning trauma into humour since 87.
Right.
87,
It's a bit of a mouthful.
It is, it really is. And like when you read it, it's not a good hashtag. That's why it's not trending. But yeah, I like that idea of talking, like we talk about rape and we talk about suicide and we talk about abuse and we'll do it all by laughing as well.
I'm not used to smiling looking at someone as they talk about rape. That just felt really weird to me then. I'm just smiling because I'm just enjoying this and then boom.
Yeah, bam.
There it is. I was like, oh, should I not smile now? What do I do?
What do I do with my face?
What's my face doing? Do I look low? What am I doing now? What's appropriate here?
Yeah.
But I guess that's kind of the podcast, right?
Exactly.
It's sort of disarming these massive,
Definitely.
these huge subjects.
Yeah,
and
there's subjects that people feel like they shouldn't talk about publicly, you know?
Right.
And I know that I've felt like that about certain things, and I think it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I think you should be able to talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about. And if that is that you were beaten up by your partner or you suffered an awful rape, like you stop yourself talking about these things because you're worried about what the other people will feel. Like you don't want to be the person that's dragging the air out of the room. But like the fact that we don't talk about those things is what does that. And the more we discuss these big topics, the less power we give them. And I feel like humour is a great way of dealing, for me anyway, it's not for everybody. And so some people will listen to it and be like, you're a fucking terrible human. But for me and for my guests, we use humour to deal with these big things that have happened to us.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is basically all stand-up comedians, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the heart of comedy is trauma.
I didn't mean that, but there's a lot of them.
No, but it's fucking true. It's so true. Tragedy and humour go hand in hand.
Tragedy and comedy, isn't it?
Yeah, what's it? It's someone tried to say this on my podcast and tripped over it about 5 times. That's Julie Grady Thomas, very funny comedian. It's tragedy plus timing equals comedy.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it's Woody Allen, so we shouldn't really quote him too much, but that's
what's
spot
wrong
on.
with Woody Allen? Oh, he was a bit wrong one, wasn't he? Is that
he
right?
married his daughter.
Ah, that's the fella. Yeah. Yeah.
Not blood, but like if you're going to bring somebody into your home as your daughter, don't fuck them later.
Big thank you to this week's guest, Nicola Stephen. We will leave links to the I'm Still Standing podcast and the Subfun comedy night in the show notes description box. If you liked this, please consider giving us a review on Apple Podcasts. Subscribe. If you've got a couple of friends that you think will enjoy this, please do the simple steps and share it with them. That would really, really help us out. And it's a way of keeping this podcast free of charge and supporting us without spending any money, which is great. Everyone wants that, I think. If you want to follow this on social media, you can. It is @TheGiantPod on Twitter and @TheGiantPod on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Andy_TGP. This podcast was produced by the world's greatest prop comedian, Harry Williams. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week on The Giant Pod. Thanks very much. Ciao, baby. I think that's it, Harry.